When I was just a small child of 5, I first grasped the notion that my sister Amanda harbored genuine hatred towards me. It wasn't mere annoyance or dislike. It was a strange realization for a young mind to comprehend that someone sharing the same blood could regard you with such chilling detachment. At the tender age of 5, Amanda was already 10 years my senior, a teenager, while I was still wrestling with the complexities of tying my shoes. You'd assume that such a significant age difference would compel her to be protective or even somewhat maternal towards me. However, it didn't. Right from the beginning, for reasons I have never quite fathomed, she seemed to resent me. The earliest memories I have are marked by her palpable hostility. Both our parents held demanding jobs at their accounting firm, often leaving Amanda responsible for supervising me. Just a few hours, they'd assure me, as they pressed a quick goodbye kiss, urging me not to reveal my trepidation. Once the car disappeared from the driveway, Amanda's fake smile would vanish. "Time for bed, Tasha," she'd command, regardless of the fact that it was only 6 p.m. protesting weekly, I'd say, "But it's still light outside," to which she'd retort, "Don't care. Go to your room." I'd be ushered upstairs, practically pushed into my bedroom, followed by the sound I can still hear in my nightmares, the definitive click of the lock from outside. The room that was supposed to be my sanctuary morphed into a prison cell. As a toddler, Amanda had convinced my parents that the outside lock was for my safety. However, it had become her tool of oppression. "Amanda, please let me out," I'd plead, my little fists making futile attempts against the door's wooden barrier. From the hallway, with a hiss, she'd warn, "Shush, Tasha, stay quiet. Remember what happens to noisy little girls? The monsters under the bed get hungry." My body would freeze, heart thudding wildly, and I'd whisper, "There are no monsters," though trying to convince myself rather than her. With sinister intent, she'd scrape her nails against the door's bottom, saying, "Oh no, did you hear that scratching? I think one's waking up." I'd leap onto the bed, dragging my feet up, convinced my ankles would soon be snatched away. For hours, I'd sit unmoving, too petrified to reach the switch to banish darkness with light. The moment our parents' car was heard approaching in the driveway, Amanda would swiftly unlock my door, whispering with menace, "Reveal this, and next time, it'll be worse. They won't believe you anyway." At about 6, I finally confided in them. They found me, upon returning, visibly shaken, tear tracks marking my cheeks. In tremulous voice, I managed to say, "Amanda locked me in my room again, said there were monsters under the bed." With furrowed brows, my father prepared to speak, but before he could, Amanda intervened, disdainfully rolling her eyes. "There she goes again with her stories. Remember last week's dragon tale in the backyard? That was a playful game." Amanda was fully aware. My parents exchanged glances, nodding knowingly. Resolutely, my father addressed me. "Tasha, you shouldn't concoct stories about your sister. She sacrifices her time to look out for you, and you must be grateful." Grateful. That word lodged into my heart like a festering splinter. How could I express gratitude for enduring torment, fear, for realizing in my own home, my word was worth less than hers? The cycle of Amanda watching over me, imprisoning me, continued for 2 more years. Her imaginative tales of the bed monsters only grew more elaborate. Sometimes they possessed claws that could penetrate mattresses. At other times, they scaled walls and ceilings when darkness fell. The day Amanda graduated and announced her plans to attend college in Michigan, 5 states away, I masked my inner joy so as not to disappoint my parents. Inside, relief blossomed, a prospect of normalcy, safety, freedom in childhood. Watching as she finally left, I lay on my bedroom floor, deliberately extending my arm beneath the bed. No claws grasped it, nothing emerged from shadows. The only monster had departed, leaving me 4 years of reprieve. Those years became the highlight of my childhood, Amanda's absence fostering an affectionate bond with my parents. They were not mere workaholic figures interrupting briefly at mealtimes. They became real, with stories, laughter, and weekend trips involving me. Mom taught me her renowned chocolate chip cookie recipe, Dad introduced me to the joys of fishing and never minded baiting hooks for me. Our family movie nights and board game rivalries were cherished. It felt like finally gaining entrance to a family I had merely orbited for years. Yet, looming ever nearer was the shadow of Amanda's eventual return. Every holiday break and summer, she would come home with designer bags and tales of her sophisticated college life, bringing lavish gifts for our parents, a cashmere scarf for Mom, a leather wallet for Dad. But for me, there was nothing, not even a candy bar or a pencil from her university bookstore. I first noticed this at Christmas when I was 9. As I watched Mom and Dad open their gifts while my hands stayed empty, I couldn't disguise my disappointment. "Where's Tasha's present?" Mom asked, noting my crestfallen face. Amanda waved a hand casually. "She's just a kid. She doesn't need expensive stuff. I'll grab her something from the gas station if it's that big a deal," she said, but that never happened. The same thing repeated the next holiday and the next. Eventually, I stopped anticipating anything and learned to be scarce during her visits. High school became my refuge from family drama. Though not popular, I had good friends, decent grades, and teachers who valued my quiet diligence. By the time I was 17, I had my college applications ready, held a part-time job at the local bookstore, and looked forward to a future refreshingly free from Amanda. Then came the announcement over dinner one evening. "Your sister's getting married in March," Mom said, her face alight with excitement. I nodded, mentally calculating that it coincided with my senior year spring break. Though not thrilled about spending my vacation at Amanda's wedding, it might be an opportunity to finally be included as an adult family member, perhaps even as a bridesmaid, a thought that was both thrilling and daunting. 2 weeks later, Amanda breezed into our house flaunting a diamond ring with her fiancé, Derek, in tow. He seemed nice enough, quiet, well-dressed, with a polite smile that never reached his eyes. A perfect match for Amanda, I thought uncharitably. Over dinner, Amanda announced, "We're planning an intimate ceremony. Actually, we've decided to have a child-free wedding." Silence settled over the table. Dad cleared his throat. "Child-free? But it's just family. Derek and I want a sophisticated ambience without distractions. Nobody under 18. Amanda's eyes locked onto mine. The implication was undeniable. "I'm 17 and will be 18 in 4 months, I pointed out. "Rules are rules, Tasha. I'm sure you understand." I looked to my parents for support. Mom stared at her plate. Dad shifted uneasily. "It's Amanda's wedding," he finally said. "She decides how she wants it." "Exactly," Amanda said triumphantly. "Besides, someone needs to watch the house while everyone's gone." It felt like a slap. They were all going, my parents, relatives, family, friends, everyone except me, left behind like an unwanted pet. After dinner, I retreated to my room, seething. I didn't cry, I was too angry. Part of me wasn't even surprised. It was classic Amanda, perfectly orchestrating my exclusion while seeming reasonable to everyone else. On the wedding day, I stood in the driveway, watching my parents leave in their formal attire, feeling hollow. For the next 8 hours, I wandered the empty house, flipping TV channels, trying not to think about what was happening at the Lakeside Hotel. That evening, when my parents returned, they were full of stories. The beautiful flowers, the touching vows, the delicious food. I nodded and smiled, playing the interested daughter. 3 days later, scrolling through social media, I saw Amanda's wedding album. Curiosity got the better of me, despite knowing I shouldn't look. There, in the family photos, stood my cousin Lily, grinning in a pretty blue dress. Lily, who was exactly 1 month younger than me. I zoomed in, thinking I must be mistaken, but no, it was definitely Lily. My hand shook as I dialed her number. "Oh yeah," she said casually. "Amanda said the age thing was just a guideline, not a strict rule. Didn't you know?" I hung up without replying. The betrayal burned in my throat. It wasn't about having a child-free wedding. It was about excluding me specifically, and everyone, including my parents, had gone along with it. That moment changed something fundamental within me. I stopped trying to gain Amanda's approval or my parents' understanding. I focused on graduating, securing scholarships, and plotting my escape to college. The next time I saw Amanda was at Thanksgiving, 6 months later. I was freshly 18, preparing to attend State University in January. She engaged in small talk about married life, and I responded with polite indifference. The elephant in the room, her wedding deception, went unmentioned. My college years flew by. I studied marketing, made friends who knew nothing of my family dynamics, and gradually built a life that was entirely my own. I returned home only for major holidays. Amanda showed up from time to time throughout the holidays, often appearing when she needed something from our parents. Then, there were the baby announcements. First Ryan, followed by Michael, and eventually Ethan, 3 boys within 6 years. She left her job to dedicate herself fully to motherhood, and it wasn't long before her children turned our parents' home into an informal daycare center. By this time, I had already graduated and started a job as a junior manager at Reynolds Trading. My apartment was a short 15-minute drive from my parents' house, though it felt worlds apart from the chaotic environment their home had become. On my visits, I would find traces of my nephew's havoc. Carpets stained, picture frames broken, crayon marks on the walls. I tried to visit when Amanda and her children wouldn't be around, but occasionally, our schedules overlapped. The boys would run rampant, yelling and hurling toys, while Amanda seemed oblivious, engrossed in her phone. When I gently suggested they use indoor voices or stop jumping on the antique coffee table, Amanda would retort, "Don't tell my kids what to do." So I didn't. Instead, I avoided family gatherings entirely until the phone calls began. "Tasha, honey, could you come over tomorrow?" Mom's voice had that familiar tone, tired, yet attempting to be cheerful. "We could use some help tidying up." Amanda just picked up the boys. Reluctantly, I helped my parents restore some order, spending 4 hours the first time without complaint. The second time, I went with gritted teeth, and by the third, something snapped. "Mom, why do you keep calling me to clean up after Amanda's kids? Shouldn't she be doing it?" There was a pause. "I'm sorry, sweetie." "You're right," Mom replied, adding softly, "We shouldn't have asked." I hung up, feelings of guilt mixed with determination. That same evening, I confronted Amanda directly. "Stop treating Mom and Dad's house like a dumping ground," I told her bluntly. "They're in their 60s, they shouldn't have to clean up after your kids." "Mind your own business, Tasha," she shot back, her voice cold. "This is between me and them. They're my parents too, and you're taking advantage of them," I countered. "I'm raising 3 kids. What do you know about any of this?" Her voice was condescending. "Don't meddle where you don't belong," she added before ending the call abruptly. Angrily, but with a steady voice, I called my parents. "Mom, Dad, you need to stop babysitting for Amanda unless she agrees to clean up afterward. Her kids are wild, and she does nothing about it." There was silence until Dad spoke. "We'll talk to her." Skeptical yet hopeful, a week passed before Amanda phoned in fury. "What did you say to Mom and Dad?" she demanded, her tone sharp. "They told me I can't bring the kids over unless I tidy up." "Good," I replied simply. "You turned them against me. Who's going to watch my kids now? Do you realize how expensive childcare is? That's not my problem. You have to face your responsibilities," I stated before she hung up again. I eventually heard from Mom that Amanda had started cleaning up slightly after her visits. It wasn't perfect, but at least my parents no longer faced absolute chaos. Buoyed by a small victory, I focused on ascending the career ladder to become a senior manager. Casual dating never led to anything serious until I met Ethan at a work conference. His intelligence, humor, and straightforward demeanor were invigorating, a breath of fresh air after years of tension with my family. We were together for 2 years before he proposed on my 27th birthday with a simple solitaire ring, promising a calmer future. I readily accepted, although a cloud loomed over our joy, the thought of dealing with Amanda at our wedding. Ethan suggested we elope to Vegas, just us, upon hearing my concerns. But I shook my head, resolved. I won't let her ruin a proper wedding. "I want everyone there, friends and family alike," I insisted. "Everyone except my nephews." Ethan's eyebrow rose. "Bold move. Your sister will object." Taking a deep breath, I responded, "After the debacle at Mom and Dad's anniversary, the cake, the mayhem during toasts. I can't risk it. I announced our plans on social media. We're excited to plan our wedding for next June. Please note, this will be a child-free event. No guests under 16. We love your little ones but want everyone to enjoy an adult evening. Most responses embraced the news, with parents assuring they'd find sitters and Ethan's family showing full approval, while my post attracted likes and hearts. A week after Amanda's unsupportive comments, I visited my parents for our standard Saturday meal. As soon as I passed through the entrance, the familiar commotion filled the air, screams, bangs, and the sound of something fragile meeting the ground. Amanda, along with her children, had decided to drop by. 12-year-old Ryan zoomed past me armed with a water gun, while 8-year-old Michael leaped from the couch to the love seat, leaving dirt trails on the fabric. Meanwhile, 6-year-old Ethan was methodically clearing the books off their shelves and onto the floor. In stark contrast, Amanda sat by the dining table with Mom, sipping coffee serenely as if the scene was one of utter peace. Midway through our meal, Amanda nonchalantly brought up my wedding, saying, "I need the full schedule to work around the boys' activities." I paused, setting down my fork, and clarified, "The boys aren't invited. It's an adults-only event, as I stated in my post." She chuckled and dismissed, "That doesn't apply to family, clearly." I reiterated, "It applies to everyone, no exceptions." She protested, "I can't leave them all day. I will need to bring them." I looked at her, questioning whether she genuinely failed to understand or was testing my resolve. "No, you will not. Arrangements need to be made for them," I stated. "There's no one I trust with them for that long. They'll be coming with me," she declared decisively. Remaining composed, I asserted, "Amanda, let me be absolutely clear. If you arrive with your children, entrance will not be granted. This is my wedding, my rules." Her facade fractured as she snapped, "You're only doing this to retaliate because I didn't invite you to mine." Taken aback, I replied, "What? That occurred a decade ago. This is unrelated." She accused, "Liar. You've always held grudges, concocting tales about me." I gestured towards Michael, who is now scaling the curtains like ropes. "This is precisely why your kids can't attend. They're wild, and you act indifferent." Amanda rose abruptly, causing her chair to topple as she called her children. "Boys, we're leaving." They exited, leaving a familiar state of disarray as they went. Afterwards, my parents expressed their displeasure with me. "Was that really necessary?" my mom inquired. "You could have handled it with more tact." I countered. "What? By allowing her to dominate as usual?" "No, thank you." My father added, "They are children, Tasha, they're family." Surveying the chaos, I responded, "Look around at this mess. Do you want it to happen during my vows or our first dance? Or while everyone tries to enjoy the meal Ethan and I are spending a fortune on?" Silence met my argument. Later, Amanda published a lengthy, self-victimizing rant online lamenting, "Heartbroken that my sister is barring my beloved boys from her wedding out of sheer spite. Family should be prioritized over petty past grudges." Rather than reply directly, I clarified publicly, noting that our child-free rule is for all attendees under 16, not singled out individuals. We aimed for a sophisticated evening all adults could enjoy. Unexpectedly, relatives flooded her post with comments. "Those boys disrupted our family reunion, knocked over the tablecloth during Thanksgiving, and broke all my best china," some wrote. "One even bit my daughter at the Christmas party," another added. Amanda's post vanished swiftly. The days before my wedding flew by in a blur filled with last-minute arrangements, fittings, and mounting excitement. Amanda's suspicious silence after her failed online attack was unnerving. No calls, no texts, no further complaints to our parents. The quiet was unsettling, and then my phone rang. It was Lily. "Tasha, there's something I must tell you," she spoke in a hushed tone. "I spoke with Jen yesterday. You remember Amanda's old college friend and maid of honor?" "Yes." "According to Jen, Amanda plans to have the boys accidentally ruin your dress at the reception, and Ryan is expected to topple your wedding cake." Jen, feeling terrible, confided in me. Hanging up, I sat stupefied. Even for Amanda, This was a new low, not merely ignoring my requests, but actively plotting to sabotage my special day. When I informed Ethan, though, his reaction was surprisingly calm. "We'll hire security," he suggested simply. "Give them photos of Amanda and her boys. No drama or scene. They won't be allowed in." We engaged 2 professional security guards and provided them with photographs of Amanda and her children, instructing them politely yet firmly to deny them entry, without any exceptions. The wedding day dawned splendidly. As the blue sky framed the day, my bridesmaid assisted me into my wedding dress, and I surprisingly felt calm, regardless of the situation with Amanda. Marrying the man I loved was what truly counted. The ceremony was set for 4 p.m., and at 3:30, a text buzzed on my phone, informing me from the head of security that the subjects had arrived with 3 minors and were proceeding as instructed. Taking a deep breath, I passed my phone to my maid of honor, instructing her not to inform me of anything about my sister unless it was an emergency, like a fire in the building. Walking down the aisle toward Ethan, seeing his face light up, in that moment, Amanda didn't exist. We exchanged vows under an arch adorned with white roses. The minister's pronouncement of us as husband and wife received a round of applause from our guests, releasing years of built-up tension. Reality hit during the reception when my mother, her face tight with anger, approached me, expressing how my sister was outside in tears because the security personnel I hired wouldn't allow her in. I maintained a cheerful demeanor for the nearby guests' benefit. I had been clear that no children were allowed, yet she chose to bring them. Mother questioned what Amanda should do with them, expecting the same as every other parent there did: find a babysitter. Tears welled up in my mother's eyes as she informed me that she and my father would take Amanda home, and hoped I was satisfied with myself. Watching them leave, choosing Amanda again, was painful, but not as expected. Perhaps I had been anticipating this moment most of my life. The reception continued perfectly. Friends danced, relatives shared embarrassing stories, and Ethan's grandmother led us in a Polish folk dance that left us in fits of laughter. The cake held steady, my dress remained spotless, and no chaos ensued with food or antics. 2 days after our honeymoon, I decided to call my parents, feeling they deserved an explanation regarding the security measures, hoping they'd understand it wasn't an act of spite. "Mom, Dad," I initiated when they answered. "There is something you need to know." Amanda had plotted to have her children cause chaos at my wedding. Lily learned from Amanda's friend Jen about their plan to have the boys spill something on my dress and disrupt the wedding cake. The ensuing silence was profound until my mother replied, her voice cold and dismissive. "Tasha, I can't believe you're still fabricating stories about your sister after all these years." "I'm not making it up," I insisted. Lily heard it directly from Jen. "Why would I lie about this?" My father sighed heavily, labeling me imaginative, always viewing Amanda in a negative light. "This has gone too far," he commented. Closing my eyes, I was transported back to childhood memories, Amanda confining me in a dark room, spinning tales of monsters, then calling me a liar when I confided in our parents. "I didn't fabricate it," I softly reiterated, proposing Lily's testimony as confirmation. My father dismissed. "Lily has always sided with you. Your sister was very hurt by your actions. And I've been hurt by hers all my life, but that doesn't seem to matter to any of you," I responded. Silence filled the line before my father proposed a face-to-face discussion. "I don't think so, Dad. I'm done justifying myself. I love you and Mom, but I won't apologize for safeguarding my wedding day from Amanda's spite," I concluded. "So, that's it, you're cutting us off?" he queried, and I sighed. "No, I'm establishing boundaries. When you and Mom are prepared to perceive me as an equal in this family, not just Amanda's nagging little sister forced to conform, I'll be here." That was 6 months ago, and since then, there has been nothing but silence. Updates trickle in through Lily. Amanda regularly offloads her children onto my parents. The boys remain unruly and disrespectful, and my parents become increasingly worn dealing with health issues that make managing 3 disobedient children challenging, yet they refuse to set boundaries with Amanda, while I won't feign normalcy. I occasionally dream of reconciliation, Sunday dinners free of hostility, holidays without tension, and my parents finally recognizing the pattern that has been clear to me since childhood. But dreams don't equate to reality. The truth is Amanda was right. I was a dreamer in childhood. I dreamt of a sister who would protect rather than torment me, parents who would trust rather than dismiss me, and a family where love wasn't conditional. Now, my dreams pivot toward the future Ethan and I might build together, a family where no child feels less appreciated, where notions like fairness and respect aren't hollow principles.